And our last diathesis, it's quite a recent addition to the constitutional types. It comes from the German authors that we mentioned, Hauser, Karl and Stolz, who wrote that book called Information from Structure and Colour. And they've added this type in, which hadn't really been much commented on previously. It's not, strictly speaking, an iris phenomenon. As we mentioned before, it's very, very fine red blood vessels, vascularizations in the white of the eye, making it, in the left-hand picture here, look actually quite pink. And this is, if you see somebody with whites of the eye that are a little bit pink, that may be what's going on here. And if you look very, very carefully close up to that, you can see that those little vessels are sort of impinging on the very edge of the iris itself. They're sort of invading the iris body. Interestingly enough, in many cases of allergy, in traditional Chinese medicine, for example, is described as an invasion of wind. Wind is an external pathogen. Phlegm, perhaps, and heat and cold may be internal pathogens, but wind is an external pathogen. If the body is sensitive to external changes, we tend to find that that gives rise to sort of allergic responses. Ask anybody with hay fever about the truth of that, and I think you'll see what we mean. So we may be looking at atopic conditions here, hay fever, asthma, and eczema. We may be looking deeper in the system for allergies affecting the digestive system. So again, this is seen in all types, no differentiation between lymphatic and hematogenic or mixed here. Introduced by the German writers in the year 2000. It's an acquired diathesis, and in this case I think genuinely acquired. We may be able to identify a familial or genetic component to this in time too, but I think this is seen as the level of sensitivity builds in the system, we get this phenomenon visibly progressing in the eye. So what we're talking about here is increased immune reactivity, sensitivity and allergy. Allergy is a form of sensitivity. It's usually triggered by something. But even though it's triggered by something, whether it's pollen or animal fur or metals of some description or particular foods, we must always bear in mind that it's the internal dynamics of the body that we want to adjust, not necessarily putting people on restrictive diets here and there for the rest of their lives, but correcting the internal dynamics so that they're less open to that external invasion. And there are ways of doing this: strengthening digestion, strengthening immunity, clearing the body of toxins, etc. all have their place in treating the allergic tendency. Don't forget that it can attest to hidden food intolerance if no obvious allergy is noted. So you might ask people, have you got any allergies? They say, not that I know of, but you might, if they're presenting with something else, be looking for something that's not so obvious. So think about testing for food allergies in this case. And the obvious food allergies, the sort of, the usual suspects, so to speak, the milk, the dairy products, the gluten-containing grains, the yeast, etc. These are kind of easy targets, but sometimes we find people are sensitive to things that you don't immediately suspect, and at that point, if you're not getting anywhere with your therapy and you want more information, you maybe want to go and send for some specific information by means of a functional medicine allergy test of some kind or sensitivity test.